The greatest song in your life will be the one you sing to the Lord. Have you ever wondered if singing is a natural-born talent or can it be learned? Cindy Roberts, a Nashville-based singer and vocal instructor, has performed live with Michael Buble, Josh Groban, Sarah Brightman, and has worked with American Idol finalists, recording artists, worship leaders, and many more. Today, she continues to teach at the prestige Christ-centered Lipscomb University while she walks in faith, helping her husband fight cancer. This is her story. This is Today's Nashville. This is Faith. Cindy, it is so good to see you. Thank you so much for being on Today's Nashville.
Thank you, Terry. I'm excited to be here.
Well, you know, you have such an interesting ministry. You have a degree in music. Mm-hmm. You have a master's in psychology.
Correct, yes.
And you have worked with Josh Groban,
Mm-hmm.
Michael Buble,
Mm-hmm.
all these great singers, and you've sung with them.
Mm-hmm. I have.
And you also work with American Idol finalists. But before we get into what you really do,
Okay.
I want to hear about you and how you got into music,
Okay.
how you got to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
So where did it all start?
Truthfully, it all started in my church and in my grandmother's playroom
Where in Tennessee or where?
in Wauchula, Florida.
Really?
I'm from a tiny town in Central Florida. Yes, people in Central Florida have Southern accents. And my grandmother basically ran a daycare, and she had a jukebox and a little raised area in her playroom, and we put on shows for each other out there. And that's when I first did my first singing. And then at church.
How old were you?
I was in the children's choir. I don't remember when I first started actually singing there, but my first solo in big church, as we called it, I was 9.
9 years old.
And I sang I'd Rather Have Jesus. And it was kind of the start of everything.
So after age 9, did you always know that you were going to pursue music in your life? Or
where we grew up, I knew I wanted to sing, but we didn't have we didn't have private voice instructors. I didn't know anything about any of that. So I knew I wanted to sing. I knew I loved to sing, but I didn't know how to go about doing that for your career. So I figured I'd sing in church. And once I realized through a minister of music who came to our church and saw something in me, his name is Eddie Rackley, and he's still a dear friend, but he saw something in me that he felt like he wanted to invest in. And so he said, you need to audition for a music degree. And so I said, can I do that? So he taught me what I needed for the audition.
And this was in high school? Or?
This was my junior and senior year of high school.
Okay.
He taught me how to sing one song in Italian, because you had to know an Italian art song to audition, which I'd never done before. And so I auditioned, and I got accepted to some different universities. I actually ended up at Stetson University and got my degree from there in voice performance, and that's how I got started.
So what happened after you got your degree? Because you've been on stage with some pretty big people.
The first thing that happened was that I didn't get an immediate job in music.
And where were
Central
you living?
Florida.
Oh, Central
We
Florida.
were in Central Florida still. I worked as a legal secretary for 2 years. And then the Lord somehow worked out a miracle, and I got hired by Disney as a soprano with the Voices of Liberty at Disney. And I sang with them for 9 years before we moved here. And I didn't want to move here, to be perfectly honest, because I was doing jingles and convention shows, and I was actually a weekly singer on a Christian television show in Orlando at the time. I was under contract there. And so I was singing a lot in Orlando, and very happy. We had 2 kids. My family was all there. And my husband just felt like I had kind of tapped out for as much as I could do. And he knew in his heart, he told me, he felt like we were supposed to be doing more with music. We had a concert ministry. I was singing on the weekends in churches all over the place. I had been as far as Canada. I had sung at special events in Canada and all over the eastern United States. But I was not really interested in doing a lot of traveling because we had children. And so he just felt like Nashville was where we needed to be. And I felt like that was too far from my family. But, we prayed about it. And so I said, okay, well, if you get a job in Nashville, then we'll see.
Let me talk about Dave real quick, because
Okay.
we're going to talk about him
Oh, yeah.
in a little bit more in depth of what you're going through with him. But so where did you meet him? College or?
We met while we were both in college. We were actually a blind date. We were set up by my cousin, and she and he were friends, had been friends in high school and college, and she just thought we would hit it off. And so she set us up on a blind date, which I said, I don't want that. I'm not interested in that, but God knew better. And so she set us up, and we basically were going to 2 separate schools. We dated the first year long distance, and then he moved closer. He graduated from University of Central Florida in Orlando eventually. So we were sweethearts through college, and we got married, and coming up in August will be 40 years.
40 years.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And he's such a great guy. And we're
He
going to
is.
talk about that in a little bit. So you came to Nashville. He talked you into coming to Nashville.
He got a job. How dare he? He got hired by Cracker Barrel for their corporate office. And when that happened, I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was very surprised, and it all happened very quickly. And we moved to Nashville.
So how did your career take off here?
Again,
Was it, again, growing process? Or?
it was it was kind of in fits and spurts, kind of a thing. We were here, and I knew some people who had sung at Voices of Liberty with me and were here before we were. And so I was booked for my first session 2 weeks after we moved here, which I thought, well, that's promising. But what I found out is that session work is feast or famine. And so my first session happened, and I had several recording sessions for different things, and that was a lot of fun. And
you mentioned Bonnie Keene on one of them.
Bonnie is one of my dearest friends.
We had her on the show.
And I know. And Bonnie Keene was in a group called First Call, who I was very, very fanatical about at that time. I walked into my first session, and there was Bonnie Keene and Marty McCall and Melody Tunney, and they were all First Call, and I was flabbergasted to be sharing a mic with Bonnie Keene and terrified. But it was the best. She was so kind.
Well, you've shared the mic with a lot of people.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about that when I come back. We're going to talk about a lot more of how you help other people.
Okay.
Cindy, you moved to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
You're working.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about some of the artists that you've sang with and have performed with. They're big names.
They are, and I start thinking about it, and I'm kind of surprised. I mean, it almost feels like it was something that happened to somebody else, because those are the kind of things you dream about being able to do. Because as I told you, I'm not famous, and I don't know how I get to do some of these things, but we both know that the Lord orchestrates all those things. But I have sung with Josh Groban twice. I've sung on stage with Sarah Brightman twice. I was on her last tour when she came through this year, actually, sang her show.
How was that like? What's it like?
It depends on the show and the artist, but with Sarah Brightman, we were on the entire show. There were 16 singers in her backup group, and sang the entire show with her. And sometimes you get to meet the artist and they talk to you, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're just contracted to, you're part of the orchestra, as it were. With Michael Buble, when we sang with him at Bridgestone when he was here the last time, that was a thrill. I stood basically as close as I am to you on the stage with him for our part of his show, which was very exciting and so much fun. You know, he's very energetic and very interactive with everybody near him, so that was super fun. But it depends on the artist. Andrea Bocelli, I sang in his choir. It was a big choir, but I was part of that when he was here, not this last time, but the time before. And
What
just
an
to
honor. Yeah, it's such an
just
honor,
to
blessing.
sing the music, the variety, the quality of the music itself. I mean, it's such a blessing to be able to use your voice in so many different ways, so many different styles, and it just, I just feel really blessed.
Well, you have a very unique ministry that you help a lot of people. Let's talk about that. We're going to switch.
Okay.
Lipscomb University.
Yeah,
You teach there.
I do.
And let's talk about how you use your degrees. And I found it interesting, music and psychology. And now that I've learned more about what you do, I can see how you use both of them in your profession. So let's talk about that.
Lipscomb, I got my performance degree many years ago, and I have sung and taught privately. But when COVID hit, I was running my own arts academy, and COVID, and as you know, the tornadoes that came through destroyed the building where we were meeting. And so I had to pivot, and I thought, this is the time. I've been wanting to get my master's, and I started praying about it and trying to decide what to do. And it's like, there's something to be looked at here when you look at the singer as a whole person. And mental health of performers, in not just singing, but public speaking, acting, anything that uses your body instrument, because our voice is our body instrument. And everything about our mental health, our physical health affects our instrument. Really fascinated me. So I got my degree in psychology, and then I got hired at Lipscomb as an adjunct voice professor. And I find that helping students and helping my professional clients, because I have that list as well, work through vocal injury, work through things that happen in their performing career. They start to develop performance anxiety because their voices change as we age. Things change. And to learn how to cope with that from a physical standpoint, from an emotional and mental standpoint, it's all integrated. And I think of myself as a holistic vocal instructor, it's not just about this.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize what the artists what they go through. And, for me, it's like, oh, they're just naturally born with this talent. But you really have to work at it.
If you want to do it for a long time, you do. Because artists who continue to do well throughout their entire lifetime in their career, the ones that last are the ones that have good technique as their foundation. And then they have learned coping skills to deal with the stresses. It's a very stressful, competitive industry. And there's a lot that goes into that can impact your voice and your health. And you can't separate them.
Is your client list huge? Do you have a lot of people that come in, or over the years?
Over the years, it's pretty huge when I start to think back about it. Because as you said, I've worked with people who've been on American Idol. I've worked with people who've been on The Voice. I've worked with people, and I'm not going to tell names because it's a very vulnerable thing to go to a vocal coach and to say, I'm struggling.
Well, we've interviewed many people on The Voice, and they mention, I worked with my vocal coach. And then we had a guest the other day and said, well, I worked with my vocal coach. A lot of people don't realize that they have coaches with them.
Yeah, a lot of them take their coaches on the road with them if they're on a long tour. I've done Zoom sessions with my people from all over the country if they're struggling. I have people that I work with in California, in Chicago that will say, I don't know what's happening, but this is not working right now. And so we'll do a session or two online. Or they'll say, I'm in town, can I come over? Because this is not working in my voice. I don't know what's going on. And so they'll come and we'll go through some exercises and some warm-ups. And I would say 8 times out of 10, something in their technique has kind of broken down and some habits have crept in and we can fix it. But the other 20% of the time, there is something else going on in their spirit, in their psyche, and we address that too.
And that's where your psychology comes through.
I think so, and that's also where my spiritual walk comes through, because even if they're not believers, I find that the Lord often kind of leads me into a way to talk to them, to let them know that they're loved and they're seen and they're important and their struggle is important and valid. And just because you're a singer, sometimes people think I'm just a singer. It's not like I'm, curing cancer.
Yeah.
But you know what? The singing ministry and that communication with people is very, very important.
Well, the Lord wants us to sing
He does.
praises to Him. We're going to talk about your faith. We're going to talk about your journey that God is leading you and your sweet husband a fight with cancer. And we're going to talk about it when we come back. Cindy, let's talk about your faith.
Okay.
When did you became a Christian and you use it a lot in your ministry?
I actually accepted Christ when I was 10 years old in my church. I grew up in the church and was baptized and, have had what I consider to be a pretty normal in-church upbringing. No big dramatic things have happened to me as far as my faith walk is concerned until the last couple of years. But I feel like the Lord has really just protected me in a lot of ways. I mean, there were things in my life. My parents divorced. My mom went through breast cancer when I was young. And I mean, there were trials and there were things. But, I knew the Lord loved me. And I felt like I wanted everybody to know that He loved them.
And Dave, too, your husband is such a godly man.
And God brought us together. And I felt like when He did, it was almost as though, I wouldn't say it was like sparks flew like that, but it felt like my heart just immediately found its mate,
And when I see you together, both of you, your love for music, you're always going, and it's just so fun to follow you, the places that you go together. You're in a huge battle now to fight cancer with Dave. Let's talk about it. When did you hear about the diagnosis?
Well, in 24, Dave was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And that was a pretty surprising thing. And he had surgery and got the all clear, went through all the recovery for that and got the all clear. Everything's fine. You're clear. And we're like, phew, okay, that was scary and rough. And then in the summer of last year, 25, he started feeling some things that didn't feel right in his midsection. And the short version is in September, Dave was diagnosed with stage 3 bile duct cancer. It had moved into his liver and it was a sizable tumor, and there's a lymph node involved by the time that we knew about it, because bile duct cancer has no symptoms on its own, and you don't usually find it until it's spread. And it had nothing to do with his prostate cancer. But if he had not had prostate cancer, he probably would have disregarded those other symptoms. So he got that diagnosis, and it just turned our world upside down, quite frankly. But the first thing we did after we found out was we went to our church, and because he wanted to go there. He's like, I want to go to church. We didn't tell our kids yet. We didn't tell anybody. We just drove to our church and we knelt at the altar and we prayed and said, God, we don't know what to do. And we still really don't know what to do.
What was going through your mind?
I think I was in shock at that point because I felt numb. I didn't have anything going through my mind except how are we going to tell our kids? You know, they love their dad so much, our grandkids. We're so close. Our family is so tight-knit. And how are we going to tell them this? We've just gotten through cancer. How are we going to tell them we're in a worse cancer? Because it's aggressive. It's an aggressive, and it's inoperable. And, you know, all the bad words that you hear associated with cancer are associated with this cancer. And so we prayed. And all of that is, you know, the hard parts. But what we also found through the journey is that God brings people alongside you to lift you up. And a very miraculous story about how we got to our doctor, who is one of the preeminent biliary tract cancer doctors, not just in our area, but in the country, and at Vanderbilt. And, you know, he's going through chemo and immunotherapy now, and he's almost done with that. And we've had PET scans, and, you know, it's not gone, but it hasn't grown. And so we're praising God for that. And he feels good most days, and we're praising God for that.
I love his attitude.
Yeah, his caring bridge is pretty amazing, and I think it's been surprising.
How many views? I mean,
I don't
everybody
even know.
is logging in.
Thousands, yeah.
I think it's close to 40,000.
And I think for him, because I was always the one out front on stage singing and talking to people about Jesus and the Lord and my faith, and he was always the one behind the sound booth doing that. And now Dave is the one that is in this part of the journey. I'm the one that's the support for him. I'm the one doing the behind the scenes things, taking him to treatments, you know, kind of making sure everything happens the way it's supposed to behind the scenes. And he's the one that is reaching people like never before on his caring bridge. And I'm so proud of him, and I'm so thankful for his attitude. I mean, there are days when it's really hard, and it's really, you know, it's not all mountaintops. There are days it's really tough. All the days are blessings. So
we only have a few minutes. Somebody's listening to you right now. What would you say to them?
I would probably say, whatever storm that you're in, whatever battle that you're in. Dave and I, when we first got married, our life verse was Jeremiah 29:11. You know, the Lord has plans for us, and they are plans for our good. They're not plans to harm us, even though cancer is not good. But the Lord's plan for this journey for us is good, and for Dave is good. And he gives us a future and a hope. And we know if that future on this earth is not to continue for a lot of years, our future in heaven is eternal, and there's nothing better.
That's so true.
Yeah.
We are going to be praying for both of you.
Thank you.
And Dave, we love you guys.
Thank you. We love you too.
And praying for complete healing.
Amen.
God is a God of miracles.
Yes, he is.
Cindy, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
My friend, are you facing a battle? Like Cindy said, God has a plan and a purpose for your life. Trust him. He loves you. He sees you. He knows you. This is today's Nashville. This is faith.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.